26%. Not 10x. 26. That is the number Microsoft Research just published as the actual productivity gain from AI coding tools. And in the same report, Microsoft put 10x with AI on its official list of industry myths, the company that owns GitHub Copilot. Saying out loud in a research publication that the headline its industry has been selling for 2 years is not true. On April 9th, 2026, Microsoft Research published the New Future of Work report. Inside it, a section titled Myths. 3 of them named directly. Their words, not mine. Myth 1. Counting AI-generated lines of code is a meaningful productivity metric. Myth 2. Current tools will instantly turn every developer into a 10 times engineer. Myth 3. Adoption primarily depends on model capability. The real number, from 4,867 developers, 26%, not 10x. A randomized controlled trial. 3 companies, Microsoft, Accenture, and an anonymous Fortune 100 firm. A random subset of developers got access to the AI coding assistant. The rest did not. Same teams, same workloads. After the data was cleaned and the noise subtracted, 26.08% more completed tasks, with a standard error of 10.3%. A useful gain, a real one, but it is not what was sold. That is the most rigorous public number we have for what inline AI code completion does to developer output. Not a vendor demo, not a self-reported survey. A randomized trial on almost 5,000 engineers, peer-reviewed, published in Management Science 2026. One detail matters before we go further. The experiments themselves ran across 2022 and 2023 on the GPT 3.5 generation of Copilot. The peer-reviewed final results came out last month. The April 2026 Microsoft Research report cites this study as the best evidence on the table, which means when Microsoft Research lists 10x as a myth, this is the number they are pointing at. The trial measured completed pull requests, commits, and successful builds, not AI-generated lines of code, the metric Microsoft Research's own report flags as a myth. Access to the assistant was randomized at the developer level, inside live engineering organizations on production work. There was no opt-in selection. There was no performative use. The developers got the tool, did their jobs, and the data was pulled from the same systems that would have evaluated them anyway. If you've been senior for 5 years, and your AI use feels less impressive than your juniors, that is not a feeling. That is the result. Microsoft's own paper says it directly. Less experienced developers had higher adoption rates and greater productivity gains. The juniors got more out of the assistant than the seniors. The benefit is concentrated where the existing skill is lowest. You are not behind. You are just not the one this number was measured on. Microsoft does not give a percentage split, and we are not going to invent one. But the direction is unambiguous in the source. A junior gains a writer. A senior gains a writer and inherits a reviewer. That is the whole game. A junior asks the assistant to write a function and ships what comes back. A senior asks the assistant to write a function and then spends as long reviewing it as it would have taken to write it from scratch. Reviewing is more cognitively expensive than writing. The senior pays that cost. The junior either does not pay it or does not yet know they are supposed to. Same tool, 2 different jobs, 2 different productivity numbers. There is a second-order implication here that nobody is discussing. If the gain scales inversely with seniority, then AI productivity is not a fixed property of the tool. It is a property of the gap between the tool's output and the user's standards. Lower the standards, raise the gain. Raise the standards, lower the gain. That is not a bug in the measurement. That is the measurement. doing its job.
There has never been a randomized controlled trial showing a 10 times speed up from any AI coding assistant. 0. None published, none cited in any of the major surveys, none in this Microsoft report. The 10x number entered the discourse from a different source entirely: keynote demos, founder posts, marketing pages, quotes from executives describing their best individual prompt sessions on a fresh code base on a Saturday, with no review burden and no production users. 2 years of compounding turned that into the default frame for AI in software. The incentive structure made it worse. Vendors needed the headline to raise money. Influencers needed the headline for engagement. Engineering managers needed the headline to justify license budgets and headcount cuts. Nobody in the chain had a reason to say, "Actually, the gain looks more like a quarter," until the company that owns GitHub Copilot decided to say it, in a research publication, with their name on it. Every percentage in every dashboard now sits next to one number: 26. If you felt 20% faster with AI, but the data says 19% slower, you are not imagining it. That gap has a name. The METR Study, 2025. Experienced open-source developers working on their own repositories. Before the trial, they predicted a 24% speed-up. After it, they still felt about 20% faster. The measured result? They were 19% slower. A roughly 40-point gap between perception and reality. Stack the two studies. Microsoft says the average measured gain across almost 5,000 developers is 26%. METR says experienced developers, on hard work, frequently overestimate their own gain by 40 points. The honest range, somewhere between 26% up and 19% down, depending on the task, the seniority of the user, and the discipline of the prompt. That range is enormous. It is also why the same week produces both headlines saying AI is replacing engineers and threads saying, "I am exhausted from AI." Both can be true. They are about different points in the same range. Hype is unbudgetable. A measured number is not. 26% is the kind of gain you can actually budget against. The kind of gain you stop calling AI productivity and start treating as one input among several. Compounded across a team, over a year, on tasks that are well suited to the tool, 26% more shipped work is a real outcome. It will pay for the seats. It will move a roadmap. It is a tool, behaving like a good tool. It is just not a revolution. The number is not the story. 26% will be a different number next year when the tools are better. The standard error will tighten. The seniority gap will move. Future randomized trials will publish bigger or smaller gains depending on the cohort. The story is the disclosure. The largest AI coding vendor on Earth just quietly broke its own marketing. Microsoft Research, the lab inside the company that ships GitHub Copilot, published a document calling 10x with AI a myth, calling lines of code a meaningless metric, and pointing at a randomized trial that put the real number at 26%. If you have been quietly suspecting the hype was off, you now have a citation. Use it the next time someone asks why your AI-assisted output does not look like a launch keynote.